I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Good to see you.
For sure, man. Let's get right on to it so we can keep this authentic. So,
Yes,
everyone,
sir.
welcome to another edition of WeekCap with Clay D and my man Greer Webb. And we're gonna keep this going every Saturday or Sunday or as much frequently as we can. Now that summer is unofficially or officially over, depending on where you are in life, at school, work, or whatever the case may be. As in Greer's case, summer's over. As in my case, it might as well be too at this point. But we're gonna do this show wherever we can. Obviously, I'm in the car about to go on a walk in the woods, so we're gonna make sure this gets done wherever. However, even if we gotta do a show on Tubi, like it don't matter the app or platform.
That's right.
But
That's
yeah, man,
right.
let's get right on to it. First full weekend of college football, man. How you feeling? You feeling the vibes? You feeling the atmosphere? It's
I
feeling
am.
good out.
I'm feeling good. I'm glad you went straight to sports. I was just watching on TV this last college game day with Lee Corso, a legend. The guy who always put on the helmet of the team he thought was going to win. I think he had a stroke or two, and so he's winding down his time at ESPN. But just so cool to see him there for one last college football kickoff, if you will. And so obviously Duke has played already this week. UNC plays on Monday. That'll be Chapel
Mm-hmm.
Bill's first game against TCU at 8 o'clock. But I'm excited. I'm looking forward to watching college football today. NFL season is here, so I'll be
Yeah,
watching
next week.
that over the coming weeks. And so, yeah, I'm pretty pumped. What about you?
Yeah, definitely for sure. It's a sign that fall's here. It's a new season, and it has a chance to close out the year on a high note. That's me looking optimistically about it. But it's great to have football back in full swing, not just preseason or training camp or spring ball or scrimmages or practices. It's
Right,
actually good to have an
right.
actual for sure, or just press conferences about what we're going to do this season. So it's actually nice to see meaningful football played that actually has stakes involved. I wish I could see Lee Corso's final telecast, but I ain't got cable no more. Like I used to.
Well, I'm sure there are going to be clips on
Of
social
people
media. They've already
watching,
put some
yeah,
clips out,
yeah.
so I'll
The
send
irony
some
is
to you.
that, and the irony was that this was actually used to be my Saturday routine was watching College Game Day with Lee Corso and Kirk Herbstreit and
Yeah.
all of them. Reese Davis, Chris Fowler, Desmond Howard. I used to like that was my like especially when I was college age. Like I literally blocked off and you couldn't bother me. But obviously different world, different times back
It
then.
is. I mean,
But
that's a good show, though, just to stay on that for a minute. I mean, it's pretty wholesome. They always have, a special guest picker, and they're just always cracking pretty funny jokes, and it's clear that they love each other. So I grew up, watching that show at home, and then going off to UNC, of course, a big sports school. We would always watch it in my dorm, and then now I just kind of have it, like you were saying, as a routine. So I still have cable while the time lasts, but yeah, that's a great show. I mean, it's been around so long, so that's just a testament to how good it is.
yeah, and obviously you got FS1 has the big news show. They try to I hate to say copycat, but doesn't really hit as well as College Game Day and such.
No, not at all.
Hope you don't mind me keeping it sports centric for a bit because I think we kind of
No,
need a
let's
big.
do it.
Okay,
Let's do it.
yeah.
There's a lot to talk about.
Normally we kind of lead into politics, but ain't really too much to talk about in the political space. Not that I really want to anyway. But anywho,
Right,
we'll
right.
we will touch on it at some point. But yeah, the kind of Lee Corso is 90 years old. Like he's
Wow,
as
I
old as
didn't
my
realize
grandma.
that.
Yeah,
I didn't
so we
realize.
should be retiring now.
Yeah, no, he
You
definitely
have
should
it
be.
already.
He should be. I know
So
he loves that show, but he definitely should be taking
yeah,
it easy here.
yeah, for sure. People are like, oh, how come he doesn't act all vibrant? He used to like, he's not, he had a couple strokes. He used to be like, it's so fast, my friend. He used to run around, put the heck. I mean,
Uh-huh.
like, if you're expecting that for him now, I mean, come on. Like,
No, no. I mean, he could barely. I saw a clip before we jumped
yeah.
on here, and he could barely get on the set today. He had to be helped. And then I
Wow.
saw a video yesterday. You may have seen this, but I was actually talking to my brother, who's at NC State, about this. They ESPN had him flying Southwest to game day today. They didn't even give him a private jet or anything
Are you
like most of the
serious?
others have. Isn't that
Are
kind of
you?
crazy?
Wow.
Unless he
Wow.
just loves Southwest. But yeah, there was a video of him in the airport, and the Southwest gate attendant was saying, good luck. We're honored to fly you to your last game day. I'm like, what? This dude should be on a private jet. He's the face of college game day.
Man, I don't know. I don't know what's worse, revoking Kamala's Secret Service protection or that. Like, what? You gonna put me on some? No, I said we weren't gonna
Oh
lead
my
into it, but I had to do
gosh.
that right there. But seriously, unless he got like a brand partnership deal for a certain period of time, like, I
Right,
hope
unless
he,
he's making
I hope
some
he did
money
not
off
make
that.
this. I hope he did not make this. I'm sure he's a man of means, but I just hope that you did not put him on a. And they don't even got two free check bags no more. And you guys,
No,
come on, what? Like
that is so
seriously.
true. That is
What?
so
You
true.
can't, man. But
And
ESPN,
they haven't
wow.
even implemented their assigned seating policy yet, which I think they're going to do next year. So this dude was up there. He didn't know is he going to be in class A, B, C. He just there trying to get to game day. I mean, I think that's crazy.
I, I'm not saying there should be a GoFundMe if it comes out that he had to pay for that, but like, that's as fun where you just gotta be like, man, like, look, I'm gonna give you
I didn't
some.
know
Like, my
ESPN
tip,
was that cheap.
no, well, they are, lately, they've been notoriously cheap. Lately. I mean,
Really?
they've always kind of been picky choosy because, I mean, they're owned by the mouse, and the mouse is cheap, Disney. I used to work for Disney years ago, so I can tell you that the mouse is cheap. But I ain't know they're this cheap. This is like this like going to Applebee's and Chili's in Atlanta on the first date.
Man,
Wow, but
that
that's good. I hope I hope it was I hope it was done to a point where, because I hope it wasn't. I hope it was his choice and it didn't have to really. I don't think he's gonna be hurting from it, but I just would hope that they would treat him a lot more respect to that. If Lester was some partnership deal or whatever the case may have been, or as he just honestly just wanted to. Like, I
right,
hope that was
exactly.
his actual autonomous choice instead of, well, we can't really cover you, knowing you
Right,
dang well could. But yeah,
right.
but yeah, that here's some fun facts. ESPN College Game Day started in 1987, a year before I was born, and their first actual road show was in fall of 1993. So
Really?
they were actually were an in studio show for like 6 years, and then they took the show on the road and they never went back, and they saw how much success it was. And I think the
Wow, I
first
didn't know that.
was around that same time as well. It was either 93 or 96. I mean, you could definitely fact check that, but that kind of, I mean, only thing I've ever known it to be was a road show, dating myself or not dating
Yeah,
myself,
same.
and I've always seen the headgear. So if there's anyone who's older out there who could vouch for when it was an in studio show, yeah, like I actually did YouTube what it looked like before. It was like, oh wow, like it was an in studio show just like any other sports show, but it's amazing. Like it would not even hit
That is
today, or
amazing.
even over the past 4 years if it was just an in studio show, because you don't have the theatrics and all that stuff that you get from the raucous crowds and all that. But
Right.
I'm
I wonder
glad.
whose idea that was. I bet that producer is making bank.
I hope so. Yeah, for sure. But you got all these copycats now, and it's just not really the same. And we're in a different media landscape now, so now you got like podcasts like our own who could get credentials on site. But I mean, nothing beats the original.
Right.
We're slowly fading away from a linear cable
That's true.
atmosphere anyway. The fact that ESPN is, if they did make Mr. Corso come, I don't know, they need to learn how to adapt because they've been having their own challenges lately with maintaining an audience and such. They're not what they used to be, but they have so much equity and capital that they can still rest on that. But
Right.
it
Right.
didn't, and they're in my opinion, I don't see them really progressing or getting better. I think unless they just adapt to, hey, look, we're gonna be streaming only, and they gotta make the streaming affordable and accessible. That's another thing. Like, I don't know how yeah, you have to make sports viewing or sports consumption free and not all the paywalls or and such. that's another thing that you gotta kind of figure out too. And this audience these days, they want things in bite-sized clips. They don't want. I don't really think we're gonna have a college game day like really in a couple years. I mean, if you do, you're gonna have to have it in like in the TikTok 1 to 2, 3 minute format. And I hate to say that, but like, our attention spans
Right.
keep getting short. But the media in itself is literally been changing, especially with AI out there. So you can't really run a full hour long linear cable show anymore and expect it to carry you like you
No.
used to.
I mean, on that point for a second, I want to get your thoughts on this before we move forward. My professor said something similar. She teaches cross-examination techniques at Emory Law, but when it comes to sports and when it comes to politics, when it comes to whatever, watching trials, she said that our attention spans as people, because I guess social media, are getting shorter and shorter. I mean, do you agree? And why do you think that is?
It is because we made a deal with the devil a long time ago not to regulate social media when it was really catching fire. We kind of let it become a wild west when we let advertisers come in and kind of dominate it. That's why we're trying so hard to regulate AI now, because like we kind of learned the lessons from social media. Like if and there were warnings, like if we don't put a cap on social media like now, it's going to overtake our society, and clearly it did. I mean, there's times now, our brains are so consumed, like our brains have to look at our phones. Like there's times now when I'm in a movie theater, and there's times I'm going to check my phone. Like as soon as I find a scene getting boring, I'll be checking my phone. The years ago, I would not have done that. You used to want to escape your phone, like your cell phone back in the day. Like you usually couldn't have it off. Now it's like we can't wait to turn it back on because we always use the excuse there might be an emergency, there might be an important phone call, and if I have it off for, but reality is we have life emergencies going on before we had technologies. Like, but we had landlines. We had to wait till you get home, or I don't know. There was a lot more boundaries in place. Like we had times where we would go on the computer back in the day, or times when we would go on the internet,
Hmm.
and it wasn't literally at our bedside or when we're going to the bathroom. Like it is now. We actually carved out spaces to use internet, to use Wi-Fi, to consume TV or consume media. We don't really have those now. So, and people feel as though they could reach us at any moment. And when you have that, even like when it comes to our employers, we just feel like, well, if I don't take this call, I'm gonna get in trouble, or whatever the case might be, or I might miss out on the client deal. So that's why our attention spans are shorter. It's because our brains now are designed to really just be entertained, get dopamine hits constantly. I mean, I was reading a report, what was it, this morning, go figure, as I was laying in bed, go figure, about how Gen Z, your generation, they be lying in bed for an hour just scrolling. Like, I mean, millennials do that too. Let's just be real. So yeah, I don't want to limit that to just Gen Z, but yeah, I mean, our attention span is so shorter. But talk about courts. I used to like watching court TV back in the day, but I couldn't. I couldn't really. I don't even know if I have the attention span to even watch a courtroom trial anymore. I mean,
Right.
maybe the G one I would have seen had they allowed it to be televised, but I
I mean, people
just,
just want the, greatest hits, so to speak, and they just,
yeah,
even on social media, right? I think, I don't know if it was an article or an actual friend of mine I was talking to, but they said that even on TikTok, for example, where they had, or they used to have a time limit, 30 seconds or something, people will scroll past that. If it doesn't keep their attention, they're like, oh, I've got to go. And I'm like, wait, it's only been 10 seconds. Like, I don't think people
yeah.
used to do that.
Yeah, think about it. Like a lot of our even like when you're creating like AI video clips, there's like a limit of 8 seconds. And thinking the reason behind that is because our attention span is literally 8 to 10 seconds, as you just alluded to. So now this is gonna be a problem when you're doing creative projects or even the big major movie studios. And let's be real, the movie industry is dying. And the traditional, I'm gonna say linear movie brick and mortar industry itself is dying. And really COVID
Yeah,
kind
that's
of
true.
accelerated that process. But now, on the other side of COVID, not even just about the economy, I'm never one person who wants to I don't like to scapegoat the economy and everything, because my philosophy is economy's going to be good for some and good for others. But that being said, the technological advancements on the other side of COVID, where we're in right now, definitely have put a death knell. And Hollywood and the movie industry has survived numerous technological advancements. When VCRs came out in the 80s, that was supposed to be the death knell. It wasn't. That's because the government got involved and it regulated that, especially when it came to people bootlegging videotapes and all. Shout out
Hmm.
to my phone naked, so when we stop, we'll be quiet. But, yeah, we did not hear that. But that's kind of true. Uh, and then the piracy that came along with that, when the internet came out, that was supposed to be the end. Even when social media's early days came out, that was supposed to be the end. But the government has always just kind of bailed out by way of regulations and antitrust laws and all those things and such. But this is the one I don't think it can survive this one. It just can't because the one thing that the other technological advancements did not have, the brain, the attention span. The VCRs couldn't do that. Early computers and internet couldn't do that. Early social media forums could not. This is a different animal we're dealing with now, and we got the
Yeah,
creator spaces. We didn't have the creator spaces to. Yeah, you talk about you whole. Now I used to get a home video camera back in the '90s and film movies and but this is different. Like this can become WeekCap can be adapted to a movie now. Like that.
right.
That's just where we are with that. So if you're a movie exec, how are you going to cater to a crowd who got a short attention span? That's why they keep on producing these movies that are like experiential or legacy based. Like we're going to bring out another Mission Impossible movie. They're going to keep putting out the safe bets because they can't really trust nothing new. Because reality is there's too many options out there to be distracted. This is another reason why, kind of put a lighthearted moment on. This is another reason why dating is having issues these days because people feel as though they got one option. If I'm getting to a fight with my man or my girl, I'm just going to see who are my DMs. But I digress. This is, but you get the point I'm saying. When people feel
Well,
that they
let's
have,
not even talk about how some people are out here dating their AIs and thinking that that's good enough. Anyway, let's keep it rolling with sports. Have you been watching any of the U.S. Open or following some of the drama at the U.S. Open
yeah,
tennis?
yeah. For one, I'm kind of glad that we've learned that we can live without Serena and Venus. Venus now is she need to retire.
You
She's
think
been one
so?
and done.
Or maybe she should just play doubles. I love seeing her on the court. I do have
I
to
do
say that.
too. It's good for legacy. It's a good draw, but let's just be real. Like she ain't won nothing in a hot minute. When I say a hot minute, it's been like at least 15 years. You can even fact check me on that. She's been one
Uh-huh.
and done. She's been one and done for like at least a good 10, 15 years now. Like even when Serena was still playing, she would lose. She's been losing the first round so much. Or I don't even think she's cracked. I'm not even exaggerating. You can actually check this in real time. The last time she won a U.S. Open, it's been a very long time. Like she did a problem was that her and Serena won so much when they were younger. They won so much when they were younger that they could literally sit on that legacy. It's kind of like how Derek Jeter and Tom Brady were until later on. See,
Mm-hmm.
Derek Jeter won very big when he was young. The Yankees, three almost won four in a row. Won 5 World Series, very beginning. Then he ain't win nothing until the very end of his career. Tom Brady, our guy, wins very big in the beginning of his career, 3 out of 4 Super Bowls. Didn't win another Super Bowl for 10 years, and he actually had he had a renaissance and won 4 more after that. That's very rare. So I don't know. I would love to see Venus win another U.S. Open or a Grand Slam. I don't see it because
No,
it's
I
been
don't
one.
see it either. She just can't move like she used to, and it
Yeah,
really is all about your feet. As a tennis guy myself, and as somebody who's getting back into the sport, because I think it is a lifetime sport, but obviously over time your abilities degrade and diminish. And so again, I think it's great to see her out there. She's playing doubles in the U.S. Open with Leyla Fernandez, a young woman out of Canada, and so that's exciting to watch. But yeah, Venus just got worked in her singles match. I think she may have won the first match. I can't remember. But she just, totally. Well, I wouldn't say she folded. She actually did give a good effort in that match that she went out on. But to your point, she just can't do it like she used to. So that's why I like to see a lot of these younger women coming up, like Coco, like Taylor
yeah.
Townsend, who spent time in Atlanta.
Coco,
We'll come back to that.
Yeah, and
like
Madison
Naomi
Keys, Sloane
Osaka,
Stevens.
so and a lot of these younger folks as well, and we've had this conversation here before, they are actually really good and they're talking about mental health, which is something that they didn't used to talk about publicly on the tour. And so, just on that point, before we circle back to Taylor Townsend, what do you make of all these younger women of color doing well, playing well, but also not being afraid to speak about their mental health? Because it's got to be stressful on that level, right?
Yeah, it is good. Somebody had to do it. I was just watching the Cowboys Netflix documentary. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because you talk about the hard coaching aspect of it and all those mental health stuff. Well, which really what it is. The mental health aspects that the players dealt with, like Michael Irvin, the cocaine, and all Troy Aikman, all the play. Dealing with this hard coaching, and the whole idea was if you can't handle the hard coaching, you're not built for this. That's kind of what we always hear. Now we really don't really have hard coaching anymore. Some people might call it soft coaching. You can call it whatever you want to call it, but there is an emphasis more on mental health, which is good because just as a whole, we still don't really treat mental health with the regard that it should. Because I'm a little older than you, I'm only saying in this regard, we still lie. Like if we don't want to go to work, we go act like we got the flu when we really just don't. We have a lot going on in our head because this is stigma that if you claim mental health, you somehow lazy. Like it has something to do with lazy. You're not driven enough. You're not motivated enough. I mean, that's gonna take. We still got a long road ahead to go along with that because if we're just talking in professional space, how are you going to be able to distinguish, is this person just lazy or is it really a mental health issue? Or is laziness in itself a mental health issue? Like we never really carve into that. I don't even really like to use the word lazy anymore, more so. I think there's not being inspired or motivated enough or driven enough, but I don't think one person ever desires to want to sit on a couch in their underwear eating a bowl of Cheetos. I don't think most people want to ever be in those places. I will say that, and I'm going to tie it to this. If a person doesn't want to bring 100% into anything, it's because of their environment. We kind of heard this, I don't know, growing up a lot, being a black person in America. I don't know if you really heard this much coming up, but black people are lazy. There's this whole idea
Mm-hmm.
that reason why we have high poverty rates or whatever the case may be, or we may not really be reaching far enough in our professional careers, whatever. The stereotype was because we're lazy, we just don't desire nothing. Is it because we all just lazy? And it took me over time to learn that, well, if there are systemic barriers in place to stop you from going, systemic barriers in itself create an unmotivated, undriven environment to where we want to contribute to society. And this is why you have crime and such. And I don't want to make it go to that, but that's why I don't really like to use the term lazy anymore. I think it's a man-made term and such, but I do think that an individual can be unmotivated or uninspired in his or her environment based upon the systemic nature or other barriers in place. And yes, people do overcome those, but not everybody. And so in tennis, I think in sports it's really good because the fans can be unforgiving, media can be unforgiving. We're just gonna say a player did not give it their best effort. I rarely don't like to say even athletes are slouches. I refrain from that talk because we just don't know what is going on in his or her mind, and fans will make fun of that. Uh, Cam Newton not falling on the ball, or people not showing up. There's mental health aspects that are involved in those. So yeah, what are your thoughts on all that?
I mean, I agree. I think it's great that people are raising the issue. I think that Naomi Osaka was one of the first, and Coco Gauff talks about it in the tennis world. And then, of course, you had, I think, Simone Biles over in the gymnastics arena, no pun intended. But I think the important part here to realize is to your point, that mental health really affects everybody. And so we shouldn't be scared to speak about it. And I think it's great that Black women in particular are succeeding on the court and then also really struggling with their mental health and overcoming some of those challenges, because you and I know that black women are the most disrespected demographic in this country. And so to see them succeeding, even despite the fact that sometimes they're just not okay, just like you and I and our listeners are not always 100%. I think it's amazing. And so that's why, going back to the Taylor Townsend moment, I get even more frustrated when these microaggressions, which aren't really that micro, come out against these black women. Taylor Townsend, for those who don't know, she was born in Chicago, then she spent a lot of time, and she may still live in the Atlanta area. She had a child recently, and now she's back on tour. And so she's still in the U.S. Open. She's won at least two matches on the singles side, and she's still in the doubles bracket. And so after she won last night, Friday night, but a few nights ago she won, and her opponent said she had no class and no education and told her that to her face. And Taylor Townsend actually handled it really like a champ and said, hey, you just need to learn to take the loss. You can't win them all, and kind of went on her way. A lot of people were saying they would have handled that a little differently. But I think that's why it's so frustrating. And the opponent was white. Taylor Townsend is a black woman. That's why it's so frustrating when folks make those kind of comments that are not really rooted in reality, but they're rooted in stereotypes and really rooted in racism and these undertones of I can say anything to black women and get away with it because they are so denigrated by society and because they are so low on the totem pole. Nobody's really going to come to their defense. And that is just so troubling to me and problematic. And so we've seen the ways, to our earlier discussion, that social media has actually come to Taylor Townsend's defense and painted her in a positive light and painted this other player whose name is Elena Ostapenko in a negative light because Ostapenko has done this before to players on tour. And so I think right now it's important to hold people accountable and also hold on to hope, which is something that marginalized people like black women do pretty well. And then I will also say that I'm really excited to see Coco Gauff still in it as a young black woman. I think she's even younger than I am. She's still in it, and she says after every match, that she was anxious during the match, that she was trying to do her best to do what her coach has been instructing her to do. And sometimes she gets emotional after the match. But the important thing is she wins the match. And the other thing to note is that this is not only a black woman thing. We've seen some of the white women on tour get very emotional and smash their rackets and cry. And so it's like people forget that, to your point, and say, oh no, this is a black only thing. Where a lot of people in poverty, a lot of people with mental health issues, a lot of people who get really emotional are white people. Probably most of the people that do all those things are white because they're the majority in this country. And so when black people respond, and this is really the point I want to make, when black people respond, oftentimes white folks will paint it as racial when actually the action that catalyzed the response was racial. And
Yeah,
so we don't
exactly.
really talk often about how white folks and poor white people, right, are marginalized, but it's okay for them to attack people of color because somehow, they're more worthy of attack.
Could you have imagined if the shoe was on the other foot and Taylor Townsend had basically said something, called her poor white trash? Could you just imagine? I'm just, you already know. You already know. It would have been, oh, the racist remarks would have been like, oh, she this and she that, da, 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 da. It would have been, I don't know if you remember when, I'm trying to think of a good example. There's many examples, but I don't want to always use football as an example, but that is the most popular sport in this country. Remember that time when Richard Sherman, the Seahawks, beat the Niners years ago, and he kind of mouthed off to Aaron Andrews on Fox Sports, and they won.
Mm-hmm.
Mind you, they won,
Mm-hmm.
and it was met with a lot of racism on Twitter. That was a dominant platform at the time, and Facebook and such. Yeah, and and that was just being good natured. I mean, that was just being in the moment of sports, and it was trash talking. I mean, we get ridiculed for trash talking, even if we're being. I, not there's not too many of us who are poor sports. I'm talking about black athletes, because we kind of already know the deal that it's not going to be
Right.
met well.
Right.
We already know out the gate that we got to shake the hand, say good game, even if we pissed or ticked off. because you already know what the media response will be after the fact. I mean, you even saw the Detroit Pistons. This is going way back now, when they lost to the Bulls in '91, the Eastern Conference Finals, after beating them 4 years, 3 or 4 years in a row straight in the '80s and early '90s. This is when Michael Jordan really took off and became Michael Jordan that we know of today. The Pistons did not shake the Bulls' hands courtside. That was met with a lot of controversy. Matter of fact, be honest, Jordan kind of jumped on that bandwagon too, and it
Hmm.
costed Isaiah Thomas an Olympic spot. So that was all. Detroit was known as, oh, we city with these barbaric black folks. Like, it was, had racial undertones in the media coverage. We can't even be poor sports to each other. You know what I mean?
Right,
You're
right,
absolutely right. Yeah, but yeah. So, but I hope, I like to see her go far. I mean, honestly, I didn't even know who Taylor Townsend was. I mean, I know she's local to Atlanta, but at least we know who she is now. So we'll see how far she goes. Hopefully, I always root for the Americans, especially if they're black women. So hopefully they go as far as they can. Yeah.
right. Yeah, and some of the American men, not to leave them out before we move on. Francis Tiafo, he unfortunately lost yesterday, and there was another American guy, black man. Oh, Ben Shelton, he's a young guy. He lost yesterday. He got hurt. He was winning the match, but actually got hurt and had to retire from the match. So I hated to see that. But there are a lot of up and coming American players, a lot of them of color who have good attitudes. They have a good team behind them, good coaches. Ben Shelton's dad is actually his coach. And it's just great to see them in these tournaments and to see that type of aura, if you will, continuing with cool, respectable American athletes. Because, especially in the sport like tennis, where you play, what, three out of the four major tournaments outside the U.S., it's good to see some Americans right there at the top.
That's good. That's good. What do you feel that tennis is in a good place right now? Just post Serena, or even post, I don't even want to say post Venus because she's still playing, but you know what I mean. Post
Yeah.
Williams sister era, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I do think it is in a good place. I mean, I think it was earlier this week I saw a post that Serena Williams went to support Maria Sharapova, who was one of her top opponents, because Maria Sharapova was being inducted to the World Tennis Hall of Fame or something. And, Venus is still around at the U.S. Open. I think she's almost 40 years old, if not 40 years old, and she's engaged now. And so they have lives outside of the actual sport of tennis, outside of actually playing tennis, which is good to see. But they're also still connected and still kind of in these mentorship and friendship roles now with these people who, they used to think of as only opponents. And so I think it's good to see their evolution. And I think tennis is in a good place, even without them competing at the top. As we just talked about, some of those up and coming players, and just, again, social media and the way that the news media is catching or picking up these stories. It just goes to show that uh, not just people of color, I know we focus on them on this show, but Americans in general are still dominating in the sports world and are still doing positive things in their communities, right? Like Taylor Townsend gives back to the Atlanta community, and Coco Gauff is happy to mentor girls who are younger than she is. She's always signing balls after her match and giving at least one high five. I've seen that every match this week, and so it's cool to see in that regard that there is a new crop of both men and women, and particularly American men and women in the tennis world. So yeah, I mean, as a tennis player myself, it's cool to see. I don't think the sport is dying out or anything like that. The way, to your point earlier, the way that it's being covered and the way that it's being broadcast might be changing because of social media, but we've beaten that horse to death. Just in the 10 minutes or so we have left, what do you think of, I've got to go a little political here. What do you think of this administration's kind of laying off of these medical professionals, specifically the CDC, which is headquartered here in Atlanta? The former director of the Department of Health and Human Services in North Carolina, Mandy Cohen, who then went on to become the director of the CDC, was on CNN this week, and she was just talking about how this is just not good for public health. This basically destruction of the CDC And then, of course, at the national level, you've got Robert F. Kennedy, who's talking all this junk about vaccines and about just conspiracy theories that are completely unproven. What do you think about public health, and how that relates to politics right now in this country?
I got two syllables. COVID. Did we not learn? I mean, really. Shoot. That's we don't care about public health. COVID should have told us that. I thought there was gonna be a huge, maybe there was, but I thought by and large we would have this huge, compassionate transitional period when it came to public health. That we were going to strengthen public health. We were going to treat public health like we do our national security, meaning that we arm the CDC to the same degree that we arm the Pentagon with resources every budget, every fiscal year. Instead, we treat the CDC like it's a think tank. We treat it like the local health department in Wake County or Fulton County. We ought to be treating the CDC in public health like we do national security or any type of security in law enforcement and such. The fact that we don't shows you. We see it in COVID, and we're seeing it. We're seeing it now. God forbid something else comes, because we don't need another COVID. That was enough. It's only a miracle we're not wearing masks right now. We don't have to, because there are times that it look like we weren't ever going to not wear a mask again. So look, we need public. We got a bunch of clowns wearing clown makeup in Washington and throughout parts of the country who either are ignorant or they're oblivious. Either you're willfully ignorant or you're oblivious. That's how I see it. But when it comes to this clown show and these bozos, and I've always held high regard and reverence for politicians. I never like to insult, but these ain't even politicians. These are flat out bozos that we have.
Right,
They don't even
right.
warrant or court the respect of me. So that's how I feel. I don't expect nothing from them. Expect this degradation.
Yeah, I mean, it's just ridiculous. You're right. There's just a clown show. But it has real life impacts on people, which, to your point earlier, I think with marginalized people or people who are always the victim of these terrible policies, they get kind of frustrated and a little apathetic. And I really don't know if I can blame them, to be honest. But somebody has to say it. Like these decisions that these politicians are making, that these public health officials are making, or not making, right? Like not choosing to vaccinate or not choosing to trust vaccines, rather. They have real life impacts on people, particularly the most marginalized people. That's poor people, people of color. I mean, folks in rural areas. That's a lot of this country. And so to just say, oh, it doesn't really matter, or we're just going to kind of repeal and redo how we do things at the CDC. Yeah, the CDC is not perfect. Oftentimes they're predicting things before they happen. And so just like our meteorologists, they don't get it right all the time. But to say, oh, and that means we need to completely overhaul it and get rid of people who don't align with Robert F. Kennedy, who's not a doctor, by the way, and Trump, who's also not a doctor, by the way, and might have some sketchy medical stuff going on with himself right
Yeah,
now.
putting the hands.
What? Like, that's just not how you run a country. That's not how you run a community. But I think people are just tired of like always protesting, always speaking up. The CDC headquarters is here in Atlanta, and there are people every day of the week outside that headquarters protesting and saying public health matters and vaccines do matter and autism is not a result of getting your vaccines. And does that matter? Like, is that doing anything? I don't know. I mean, I think that's a noble thing to do, but then you see Trump firing that lady in charge and allowing Robert F. Kennedy to basically set the policy agenda for the CDC. And that dude is not a doctor. He doesn't understand healthcare disparities. He doesn't understand health insurance. All this stuff that Americans have to learn on our own, these politicians get away with just making decisions about. It seems like they just wake up and flip a coin and they're like, all right, time to fire somebody or time to just take the policy in a different direction. And I'm like, what? This is going to lead to people's demise and if not death. And so I am frustrated personally, but I can only imagine how people are feeling who have to people in rural areas, poor people who actually are going to be the victims of some of these consequences.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even looking at the EPA or you know any governmental agency that protects us, even with our climate, our everything. I was just look. I texted you last night about watching the Katrina documentaries. Finally having a chance to look at those, some of those, and that's just another example of government failing. They made a reference to New Orleans being an orphan in a red state because it has the progressive Moors, but it happens to be in the most reddest state in the land with all the I'm using their own words now. All the bozos who don't give two you know whats. And reality is that just like I said last week, I don't trust us if we have a major hurricane coming. Just like I don't trust us if we have a major pandemic coming. I don't. Matter of fact, I don't even know if I feel it's that safe if we're protected against cyber crimes or any cyber attacks or even. I mean, y'all keep talking about how you want to protect us from the immigrants. I mean, y'all seem to be real high on that, but are you really stopping terrorism? Because I don't think you really are going to be good at that either. You're focusing on one thing out of an agenda. Y'all wanna make a point of try to arrest a guy throwing a sandwich. You want to call that you want to call that homeland security? Come on now.
I mean, it's just a joke. It's just a joke. I saw a story last night that said sometime recently, Tulsi Gabbard published the identity of an undercover CIA agent on accident, her office. And I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, they just don't care about putting people in danger. They don't care about precedent. They don't care about how it used to be done. And sometimes, I'm not saying that's always a bad thing, generally. Sometimes things need to change. But these basics that have to do with human decency and humanity, right? Like health and life, those things, you can't just change those on a whim and expect to know consequences. And so we're
Yeah.
going to see what happens here. I mean, they continue to arrest and try to deport people who are U.S. citizens. That's wrong. They continue to try to hide the Epstein files. That's wrong. They continue to say Trump continues to talk about the 2020 election and how it was rigged. What an idiot. Like, what a dummy. Um,
Bro,
and
you in
so
office now. What they gonna do? Come on. You in
Right.
office now.
Like it's just weird behavior. And again, it has consequences for people because it promotes these conspiracy theorists. That resulted, and I do want to mention this in the few minutes we have left, that results in acts of violence like what we saw in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, where the gunman fired into this church where little kids were praying. You know, I hate to talk about it, but it must be discussed because we're so normalized or we're so desensitized to this sort of thing. And so, thoughts and prayers, that didn't work in that case. You know, Frederick Douglass said that I started realizing that my prayers would be more effective when I got up off my knees and started working toward what I was praying for. We've got to act like we know what to do. It's time to do it. There's no more need for talking when it comes to gun violence. We know what the issue is. So, and we know what the solutions are also, which is the important thing. And so to see those kids have to die because of this conspiracy theorist, hate-filled shooter, um, it's unfortunate, but that's going to keep happening until we actually address the issue and do something about it. And I mean, I was just watching one of the most touching parts of that story is I was watching CNN the other day, and an older man said he heard the gunshots and he didn't wait on the emergency responders. He ran up to the school, and these kids came up to him with blood on them. He said one of them had actually been nicked by a bullet. Another one was just near another student who had been shot, and they just held his hand, and they waited for the ambulances to come. And then, of course, after that, they waited for the parents to come. And like, really, that's what we're doing in America? Because people want to say, oh, everybody has a right to the gun, and it's not the gun. None of this crap would happen if these guns weren't so readily available. Like
You
it
ever seen
just
Bowling for
wouldn't
Columbine?
happen.
You ever
Say
seen
that
Bowling
again?
for You ever seen the documentary Bowling for Columbine? It's real old, but it's from Michael Moore.
I haven't seen it, but I can imagine what it's like.
Uh really it I don't I don't like to necessarily promote dated pieces, but this could really transcend time. Probably the only thing you really need to see to understand why we'll never get anything done with gun culture, and school shooting culture in this country.
Well, and a lot of people say if we didn't do anything substantial after Sandy Hook, those little
Yeah.
white kids, right? Then
Yeah.
we're never going to do
Y'all
anything.
shoot. What did MLK say after JFK was assassinated? They gonna protect the president. They sure ain't gonna protect us. That's just the truth. That's just the truth behind that.
That's
That
true. I've
it
never
is.
heard that.
Yeah, true statement. He said after JFK's assassination, he made a remark to, I'm not sure who it was. I don't want to say it was yet. It was somebody, and he was on, or maybe it was to the media. But he said if they can't protect the president, they sure won't protect us. Talking about, yeah, and well, unfortunately, given Dr. King's case, that was the case. So he wasn't
Right,
protected at the end of the day.
right.
So yeah, but yeah, I mean, if Sandy Hook couldn't do nothing, it ain't gonna matter what happens in any other jurisdiction, because Sandy Hook was the epitome of suburban white culture in this country. If you, I don't know where else. What's it need to be in a red state? Like, really? Does it have to be like, I don't know, rich white school in Tennessee to get y'all to act? I'm serious. I hate to say that, but maybe that will do something. I don't know. I not to be joking about this, but that's just the reality that we're in.
Yeah. I mean, and it has happened in red states, right? You got Uvalde, you got some of this other
Yeah,
stuff, and the police literally stayed outside the damn school. Like, and they're still uncovering
yeah,
stuff about Uvalde. They had a story on CNN this week about Uvalde, how they're still not giving out emails to the media showing that they messed up and that, that door that the person went in should have been locked or something. They're withholding documents still years later because they don't want to just take accountability and fix some of these problems. So, at the end of the day, I guess to leave on or end on a positive note, that's why you have to keep talking about these things. That's why you have to hold on to some hope. And again, as I always say on this show, you've got to really lean in and confide in your local community. And you can't put all your trust in these politicians, to your point earlier. You just can't.
yeah. So, we'll end with this. What do you think about Kamala Harris's Secret Service protection being revoked?
I mean, that was interesting. Obviously, it's not going to be totally revoked, but Joe Biden, I think, gave her some extra security or some type of special security because there were threats, right, on her life and on her family's life. And so to have that now be revoked by Trump just because he doesn't like her is ridiculous to me. So I pray for her safety and for her continued success. I know she's about to go on a book tour, so I'm sure her basic security detail is going to have to rethink
Be
that.
private.
And they're probably
Yeah,
stressed, but yeah, I think it's
yeah.
crazy.
She's gonna have to hire private. Without no Secret Service protection, you're gonna have to hire
True, true.
private, which I'm sure
What
she'll
she
do.
can do, but still, I mean, the act of revoking that security is wrong.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I mean, vice presidents don't keep them lifetime, but you know, Richard Nixon famously, you can look this up. He said, "I don't need Secret Service to protect me no more. I hire my own folks to do it." That's the truth.
Wait, do vice presidents not get Secret Service for life?
No, only 6 months after they leave office.
Wow, I didn't realize that. So she's gonna have to hire private for real.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Mike Pence don't even got no Secret Service protection right now. This man was almost lynched. To be honest, man. That's why you
That's
ain't seen it
crazy.
mostly. That's why you ain't seen it probably.
Right, right. Wow, that's a great
Well,
point. I'm
yeah,
sure he
and
has some private, don't you think?
yeah. Oh yeah, I'm sure. I don't think he's just walking willy nilly to a gas station in Indiana. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But hey, but I would say this though. It's even interesting to know. Even ex presidents didn't get lifetime Secret Service for a good while. Matter of fact, Congress not too long ago had to extend it out again, because of this is at the time when the Clintons were finally out of office, and it was necessary for that to happen. This was like back in 2000s. Matter of fact, President Obama had signed a law about protecting ex-presidents for life. That will continue. That will continue on. But there used to be a limit on how long they can get the Secret Service, even after presidents left office and their families. I mean, seeing Michelle Obama and Martha's Vineyard, she had Secret Service protection because as long as she's still married to Barack, she will have it. Now, if she divorced him, that security detail gone. Like you had to be
Interesting.
married. You had to be married to the ex-presidents, like, and the kids don't get it no more. So Sasha really do not have Secret Service protection. Like the kids or Chelsea Clinton don't have it either. Um, but yeah, but as long as Bill and Hillary are still married, as long as Barack and Michelle are still married, and George W. and Laura still married, yeah, Laura will, they will, the wives or the spouses will have it for life as well. And that had to keep on getting like voted and reauthorized and everything because at one point, how many people in the family tree you got to protect? Like, dude, should kids get? I think, to me, I feel kids should get lifetime of an ex-president. I
I
feel,
agree. I agree.
um, yeah, kids. I mean, wife definitely, but the kids definitely because kids they get this. It's just crazy people out there. But I mean, the cousins, nah, you ain't gonna know who the cousins are and the nephews and whatever.
No, not at all.
But yeah, man, it was a good show today. Um, yeah, man, let's just keep this going, man. We got a should be an interesting fall. I would love to see Kamala's book tour. To me, she doesn't wow me enough to want to go see it, but I would love to go see it. I'll put it in layman's terms. I don't want to spend $450 to see it. I'll put it in even more simple terms than that.
Right. Me neither, man. Me neither.
Yeah, I would love to live stream it though. Hey, live stream it. I'll definitely see it. But yeah. All right, everybody. Well, thank you for joining us here on WeekCap, and just continue to follow us on social media, and we will see you all next week.
Alrighty,
All
y'all.
right, good
Take
talking to
care.
you. All right, bye bye.
All right, see you, Clay.